Man, I need to find new lo-fi musics. It's not that I hate the ones that I have, but I think I should mix it up. But it's kind of hard to find these no copyright lo-fis that constantly work. But anyways, greetings everyone. Here's your friend Carlz with new week of comic books. Man, I finally watched Spider-Man Brand New Day, but I have sort of lots of things to say about it, so I think I might dedicate a whole episode to it. What else? This weekend, the new Lantern series, it's out. I think the first episode was great. I don't think I might dedicate a whole episode when the series is over. I wasn't really that much aware that actually Tom King was co-writing it. It's weird, and of course you have all the talk around the bushes, people complaining about it, people like talking shit. Man, you can catch a break nowadays. Like it's ironic coming from me, who enjoys telling his opinion about stuff, telling other people like, oh man, there are so many opinions on the internet or whatever. But there's a different way of saying your opinion. Just if you've been long enough on the internet, you are aware of what basically hating something means, how it sort of shows itself. But whatever, we'll cross that bridge once the Lantern series is over. But comic wise, I don't think I've read or heard anything that much special. Now, Marvel is already starting to build up the hype to the titles that will come up after DNX, the next X-Men event. The first announcement was Jean Grey series, which of course makes you kind of like raise an eyebrow to the timing. Well, I think it's no spoiler anymore that Sadie Sink is Jean Grey in Spider-Man Brand New Day. So it sort of coordinates. The previous Phoenix book, I think it was quite enjoyable. I don't know if they planned to have Jean's sister be part of that story before Brand New Day. I don't know, but the Phoenix book was pretty decent, and the one thing that was missing from it is, I think, what's gonna happen in the new Jean Grey book. Then they are gonna bring her back. I think the whole Jean Grey going to the space, nowadays they just take a hiatus, and they go to space like to chill and like mess around for a bit. But whatever, we'll see when that comes. I'm actually looking most forward to DNX, to even Armageddon by now. I'm looking forward more to what happens with Armageddon after the event, if that makes any sense. Yeah, it does. Comics. Sometimes the setup is more interesting and more, I don't know, fun than. I mean, the consequence is more fun than the setup, and sometimes events are just setups. Sometimes they work better, like with This Is KO, and sometimes they don't work at all, like Imperial. I need to do like biggest disappointments of the year by the end of the year, just to talk about Imperial. But anyways, it's another week of comic books, and let's dive right into what I'm looking forward for this week. Boom. I just said that I wasn't that excited about Armageddon, but there is some good things to pick up out of this event. And one of those things to me is Wolverine. Is kind of like strange, the position that they put Wolverine in. I really enjoy when Wolverine is not just like a mutant thing, but something bigger, something greater. And I think it's something that they don't always do right. They always sort of approach a point in which you can see Wolverine like that, like when he was headmaster at the school. You can see him peeking towards that, and then they take the Spider-Man approach and they bring him down. But I always enjoy when he appears in not necessarily leadership or like um, uh, limelight positions. Like he's not the main guy, but he's really important. So I think that is what I've been looking for the most in Armageddon. Characters that take roles which suits them very well, but they don't get like all the time to do them or like to play them out. Like Iron Man in that sort of weird leadership position, as he's doing as well in the Queen in Black event. Um, Wolverine, but the situation itself in Armageddon, I feel like, as I said at some point at the beginning, is not really kind of like the impact, the event impact that you would like. But yeah, if I'm recommending Armageddon in particular, it's because now I really want to see what Wolverine does in the event. It was curious enough that he was the preview. No, it's not the preview, like the preamble to Armageddon when they released Wolverine Weapons of Armageddon, which was an interesting book, but it was a little bit repetitive because we went back to the whole weapons thing, and they got that new guy weapon, what, a million or whatever. But anyways, Armageddon is, I think it's halfway through already or something, but it's been mildly fun. But as I said at the beginning of this commentary, it's more like a setup for what comes next. The next Avengers formation, and I don't know. I don't think it's gonna set up DNX that much, but I'm looking forward more to DNX than Armageddon now that it's halfway through. And I'm looking more forward to Captain America's own story, as he's prancing around with Doctor Doom on the underworld. But anyways, Armageddon issue number 3. Next. Finally, Bug Wars is coming back. I think I commented on Bug Wars when Jason Aaron's Bug Wars. Does it sound like I'm saying Boat Wars? Bug Wars. Bug. I think I commented when the first story arc ended. It was a really nice surprise, this book, because when it came out, I had no expectation about it, and then just keep growing and growing into this violent, epic, even sexy story, like this crazy epic version of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, right? For those of you who don't know, Bug Wars is about this kid who gets shrunken down to the size of a bug, and he discovers that somehow his dad was kind of like the savior of this microcosm, and he becomes this great warrior and savior, and sort of like a Conan the Barbarian type. At the end of the first story arc, he grew up back to his normal size, and he discovered that his brother was kind of like defending him in a way. I'm not gonna fully spoil what happens, but he discovers that in the big world, if you want to call it, in the human world, things were happening in contrast to what's happening in the bug world. But of course, he is changed forever, right? The main character is changed forever because he experienced an adventure like no other. And I think that is the best contrast and the best sort of commentary that you can make in a book like this. Like, if you're not, even if you're not seeing it, even if you're not watching it, like great epic important things are happening all around you. Doesn't need to be a metaphor between big people and insects, or it doesn't need to be fiction. Just that exercise of kind of like connecting with the impact and just the impact of conflict that is happening among other conscious beings other than yourself. makes you put in perspective. But ultimately, Bug Wars was really fun. The action was amazing, and the art by Mahmoud Assar was out of this world. So I'm really glad a second story is coming, and you know, what can you say, man? Secrets will be revealed, and we'll see how they come uh, to be. I don't know. New characters, new adventures, new everything. Bug Wars. It's good. And next, I've talked about G.I. Joe before as well as a part of the Energon universe. Now we have the Mask People as part of the Energon universe. Void Rivals is going into a whole different direction, being connected with the Cobra La La La, aliens. It's big. I think the thing that the Energy universe has achieved by now is just to create a universe, and with that I mean that there's already so many things going on. There's already so many interconnected things that even if they haven't clashed in a big event, which we haven't seen yet, we have seen events inside of the events, right? We saw the Quintesson War in Void Rivals. We've seen plenty stuff in Transformers, and we've seen small stories inside of G.I. Joe. The upcoming issue of G.I. Joe, issue 25, is starting what they call the Night Force event, a 5-part event that is gonna sort of split the G.I. Joe team, and it's supposed to sort of bring the G.I. Joe into a position that it's supposed to be more similar to what they were in the series. Now, everything is set up in this event. They have traders inside of G.I. Joe. We have Cobra Commander and Cobra, of course, that they are still lingering with the Energon thing. Duke had his kind of like, what is the opposite of a fallout? A fall in. But he kind of made up with the fact that Transformers are not completely his enemies, and we have Hound as part of the G.I. Joe, which is great. It's a direct connection to the Transformers and to the bigger Energon universe. You know, it's great. Like, the thing that sort of clicked on my brain was the fact that, as I said before, or I mean just now, that the Energon universe is already pretty strong as a universe, just by the mere fact of existing. So even if these stories don't tug at all strings, you know, they all feel somehow impactful, and I think that that is great for an interconnected universe and for some IPs that you really care for. So even if Night Force is not gonna bring all of the Transformers in, and we are, I think, way far from having Void Rivals actually interacting with either G.I. Joe, Mask, or Transformers. Even if that doesn't happen, the way they have set up this is already taking a life of its own. And that shit is great. It feels amazing. And so they tell you, oh, it's a new big story for G.I. Joe, and you feel like you gotta read it because you feel like it's gonna be important for the rest of the universe. If you ask me, they already achieved that, and it's great. Though one thing that I haven't really liked about the whole G.I. Joe book, I think the characters, they have just a few characters. You know, it can be like the animated show back in the 90s where there were like hundreds of G.I. Joe because they needed more toys. This one doesn't have that many characters, and even if it doesn't have that many characters, I don't feel like all of them have been used at their fullest. They all have had small stories to explain their backgrounds, but I still feel a little bit more. It needs a little bit more. But we'll see. New quote unquote event for G.I. Joe, Night Force. Get it in G.I. Joe 25 this week. Next. Man, this was almost my book of the week. I had no idea that they were gonna introduce Absolute Solomon Grundy as part of Absolute Green Arrow. to this point, Absolute Green Arrow has been this thriller um, story, like told mostly from the point of view of was she Black Canary in this universe? I don't know. So we don't fully know who the killer is. We know Dinah Lance is had some sort of relationship with Oliver Queen, but we don't really know if the Longbow killer is Oliver Queen. So it's set up as a thriller, which is awesome, but somehow it works like in every one of these absolute universes. They go like, okay, we're gonna introduce a new absolute version of a character, and somehow it's so exciting. And that is something that they have achieved by not only making all of these these solo titles of the Absolute Universe great, but they already created kind of like a general vibe to it. To the point like you can even correlate how good Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, uh, Martian Manhunter, you can almost correlate how great most of the Absolute titles have been to this feeling of excitement anytime any one of the Absolute versions of these characters appear. It just works. Just as G.I. Joe did, the the recent last book that I talked about, just as the Energon universe achieved that, so has the Absolute universe done. So it's just so exciting, man. So it's like Absolute Solomon Grundy. Like, okay, I'm all down for it. In a book that is all about murders and mystery, like, it's perfect. It's perfect. We're gonna finally see a little bit more of what happened with Oliver Queen, hopefully. More leading towards maybe him being absolutely, I don't know, man. But that's so exciting, and that happens when you have a great thriller setup. You are like looking at all the clues and thinking like, what this could mean, where are they going with this? Everything set up like a good universe. And maybe not universe, and universe is too much, but a good setup, and that's kind of like the tone we've seen with these books, all of the ones that we've talked about today. Just set up this big universe, so anytime you throw us a new clue, throw us a new thing, it's highly exciting. Just as Solomon Grundy, or Absolute Solomon Grundy, even that sounds cool, is coming in Absolute Green Arrow. A great book. Next, The Mortal Thor, issue 800. It comes a little bit hyped by the recent happenings in the Queen in Black event. I didn't really took on the weight of Thor being erased and Asgard being mostly erased of the common memory until I read the first issues of the Queen in Black event, where they explicitly almost bullied poor Beta Ray Bill because he being the only one on Earth that remembers Thor. That's so good because Beta Ray Bill has been kind of like the heart of Asgard, even if he's not like the main heart of Asgard. Whenever he appears, he always has this like this posture, this way, this really honorable, loving, respectful way of talking about his adoptive home of Asgard. It's pretty cool. Well, that leads me back to the Mortal Thor, and as the mystery behind the spell that erased them from existence is starting to kind of like click in between, of course, Loki's between that and whatever what is the name of Thor's human persona? I always forget this. Robert, right? I bet it's Robert. But anyways, I've said it before, when they do these landmark issues, these legacy numberings, and they bring a little bit of, not a little bit, a lot of storytellers to tell stories about the current state of Thor, it's impossible that we won't see kind of like something really develop. It's not Robert, right? It's Donald. Yeah, fuck, it's Donald Blake. So we know Odin, Loki, and Donald are all uh, convoluted into whatever made uh, Thor and Asgard being erased from the collective memory. So yeah, a little bit of Queen in Black pushing back the interest back into the mortal Thor. Like, you didn't even notice that he wasn't in any of the events. Like, is he in Armageddon? Considering that Marvel doesn't really have that much of a strict policy into taking characters that are allegedly on a type of break from one book to appear in another. But anyways, thank you Beta Ray Bill for reminding us that we still have the great mystery of whatever happened with Thor. And the Mortal Thor has been quite an entertaining book, mostly because Sigurd Jarlsson, the persona they're creating for Thor, has been so great. It's been so fun to see, kind of like, it's not basically Thor, it's not just powerless Thor, but it's a reinterpretation of whatever values made Thor. You know, we always think about values in Marvel heroes with Captain America, for example. You rarely think about it with Thor because he's a god, right? He lives on a crystal palace. He doesn't have that connection with the common folk. But Sigurd, he does. And he sorts of wields that with a strange pride, which is quite enjoyable, to be honest. Surprisingly, quite enjoyable. So yeah, we need to know what's going on with Thor. We are knee deep into the mystery. So the issue 800, of course, is gonna move forward the mystery. Of course, how could it not? The Mortal Thor, number 800, legacy number 800. Next. The static is back. You know, this is I'm gonna be completely honest. Whenever we've seen anything from Static and they make like such a big deal, like he's back into like the main DC universe, I always think that Static Shock was a little bit after my time being interested in those animated shows. No, it really is like complicated in a way, because I don't know, you feel like you miss something really important. Like, to me, the character of Static, which I guess you can call it Static and Static Shock. It's the same character. Like, why do we mess around? So whenever they bring him back some way, somehow, I feel like they've been teasing him to have like not like a really important place in the continuity, but a relevant place. And of course, they are using this current kind of like change, the transitional, yeah, it could be a transitional period of the Titans, as they are facing the old ones and bringing the new ones again. We already know we're gonna have another Titans book in the upcoming future, so we don't really know how much Static is gonna be of importance in the current one. Having so many big characters, especially Superman, and, well, you can say Wonder Girl, the odd, what is the term? Odd cat? No, odd duck, or like the weird inclusion of Stephanie Brown's Batgirl, which I found to be really strange. I'm still waiting for both Stephanie and Cassandra to be part of whatever is going to happen at Gotham. But if she's occupied being a Titan, I don't know how is that is going to be. So we'll see. I guess my objective in talking about New Titans and talking about Static was mostly to do that little introspection on how I don't really know the character and I've never really been a fan of the character, but um, it's a fresh character even if it's old. Just the other day I saw this reel of, I don't remember who was saying, like, when was the last time we had a new a brand new character. Static is not brand new, and they have tried to bring him back into main continuity several times with various success levels, but you can count him as a new character, since his exposure has been so low. Let's see what happens in New Titans. Next. And in Nightwing, it's weird talking about Nightwing after the New Titans because I feel like they keep having this the old guard of Titans characters in, like, Cyborg, Nightwing, what is that? Donna Troy, right? It's Donna. I keep forgetting names. I suck with names. But anyways, in Nightwing's own book, I think it has had, like, to this point, a warm kind of like reception. From my part, I didn't really got into the whole magic or mysterious element that they were introducing during this story arc. Oh, there's a witch. There's like a curse in Bloodhaven. Like, ooh, all of that is not bad. I don't hate it or anything, but I didn't really feel the weight of it until now. Until now, finally we are putting, or they are putting, I have nothing to do with it. They're putting Nightwing in a really, and like in a contested position. It's great because now he's facing a situation that Batman hasn't really faced in that way. Like what Dick Grayson did for Bloodhaven and the way he's connected to the city is something that, in a way, Batman has never really done, in my opinion. Or maybe not never. I don't know by heart all Batman stories through all time. Might be an exaggeration, but even in that case, you do feel like, maybe because it doesn't have that much story, but you feel like Dick Grayson is way more connected to Bloodhaven. That, I don't want to say that Batman is to Gotham, but in a more present way. Sometimes Gotham is bigger than the Bat family. It's bigger than the heroes that live in it. Sometimes Gotham is bigger, but Bloodhaven is not. So when they say that Dick Grayson's fate is tied to Bloodhaven, it works. So this whole string of murders and the whole supernatural beginning to this story arc, now it sort of makes sense, and it becomes really enjoyable because the fate of when they say the fate of Bloodhaven is tied to the fate of Nightwing, to Dick Grayson, you can see it. You can see it and you can understand it. So we are in a pivot. How do you pronounce that way? In an important point of this story. Sometimes I try to use fancier words, but I forget how to pronounce them. This is an important part of the story, and it's Nightwing, man. It's been fun for years now. Next, in Superman Unlimited, I talked a little bit about the Kingdom of Sod story arc. I haven't begun reading it. I haven't read the Kingdom of Sod #1 yet, but I thought it was important to highlight this book just because it's properly branching out the the super family towards characters that are not always highlighted. They made this tiny corner of still Lana and Natasha, like a small tiny family in a corner of the super family. And the funny thing about it is that they always keep trying to push some importance and relevancy to what they do at Steelworks, the company what that is led by Steel. But they never really achieved it. So I guess them taking this corner opportunity to do something as part of the big Superman event of the Kingdom of Sod, it needs to be highlighted. It needs to be recognized. These are pretty fun characters. When initially Lana got her powers and became one of the Superwoman, that that highlight put her in a really top relevant position. It felt great. Of course, they changed that, or that story ended, and when she got her powers back, you sort of didn't even realize it. And whatever they do at Steelworks, it seems so secondary, but they are still great characters, and we can't really expect them to be that much of an impact into the event. That's not how it works. But come on, if they're gonna be the protagonist, even in this tiny part of the story, I wish I could say a little bit more of how important it is for the story itself. But as I said, this issue of Superman Unlimited is part 3 of the Kingdom of Sod, and I haven't gotten to read part 1. So we'll know what's gonna happen with the whole Kingdom of Kryptonite, or like why Kryptonite doesn't seem to affect Sod. I don't know. We'll see about it. But it's always worth to be like an active reminder when these secondary characters get a little bit of a spotlight. And what better place for a spotlight than an event? So Superman Unlimited, issue 16, part of the Kingdom of Sod event. Man, that Gilliam Marsh cover is so strange. I think, and I'm not an artist or anything. I don't have kind of like the credentials to talk, but I'm pretty sure Gilliam Marsh has changed his style, like for the past progressively for the past like 5-6 years, isn't he? I mean, he still has that style, especially with women. He does the almost pin-up style of women, but his style feels so different. Of course, you got into him in like what, doing Catwoman or any other woman character because he puts them on the forefront. But even then, he has changed into this sort of almost retro 90s style, which is kind of odd because not only shows that he has changed, but he has settled into this style, and I really don't know why. I'm not gonna say it's bad, I'm not gonna say it's good, but I just find it curious. Someone with more art knowledge is welcome to correct me on this matter. Next, last, uh, not least, not everything, or maybe everything. My book of the week is the new book by none other than Sean Gordon Murphy. I know why sometimes they write Sean Gordon Murphy and sometimes they write Sean Murphy. I'm pretty sure I might have talked about Batman White Knight at some point. I must have. That whole Batman White Knight saga was amazing. I absolutely loved it. That sort of, you can call it a type of realism he gave to Batman. taking responsibility for his years as a vigilante, being Harley Quinn's partner, the way all of the characters evolved during White Knight, in I don't know, degrades on into a cop or anything. How one of the things about the Bat Family that you don't often do as an ongoing mid-length story was to explore what happens when they stop being the Bat Family. That was the core to me of White Knight. What happens when you get to stop being Batman and you get to stop being Robin. you know to me that was the core of White Knight, and it worked perfectly. It did like a bad story with a completely different perspective. Of course, at the end, not, and this is like a mild spoiler. Of course, at the end, everything went back to Batman. Everything went back to the super story. But the thing I loved the most about White Knight was the relationship he created between Bruce and Harley. It's something that was really unexpected, but it was really mature. The way they evolved out of their alter egos into their husband and wife. I don't remember if they were married into it. But anyways, Batman White Knight was amazing. And this is the new book from Sean Murphy. Let's just call it Sean Murphy. Let's know 2-3 names. This is a complete new story. Of course, it's published in an Image, and it's a completely different story. It has no Batman in it. But White Knight was just so good that if you tell me this is a book written and drawn by him, his art is amazing as well too. It has that kind of like grave pencil style, if you can call it like that. But this is a story that it's more sci-fi. Of course, it has have robots, a dystopian future. It has I don't know. Nothing to do with the story that it was a one in White Knight. But we can expect good things about this dystopian USA. And what is the name I had written down? Clutch. The book's protagonist's name is Clutch, like the stick you use to drive a mechanic car. Is it called mechanic in English? Like when it's not an automatic car, it's a mechanic car, right? And he's right in the middle of this dystopian future to save his granddaughter. It's really hard sometimes to connect whatever happened in White Knight with what might happen in The Last Driver book. It might be a completely different vibe from the same author, even if he's writing and drawing. It might be a completely different vibe, but who knows? I love it when an author has a book that you love so much that you don't even read the synopsis of the next one. Not even that. You see the name and you go like, yeah, man, I'm gonna trust this. And like blindly. It's like you don't need anything more. And I've said it before in more than one occasion. When you are a comic consumer, sometimes you don't need that much. You don't like, and I think nobody would blame you for it. You grab a little thing, an author, an illustrator, I don't know if a letterer or something, but whatever works for you, whatever piques your interest, just follow it, man. Just follow it. I'm not gonna say it's never gonna fail, but just follow it. That is why I'm doing with Slack Book by Sean Murphy. And that is as well my week of comic books. As always, a lot of exciting stuff. We have a couple of events going on. I haven't gotten all of them in, so I have a lot to read. I have a lot to do. It's busy, 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 even if it's about fun stuff. I think it's great to be busy, busy, busy with fun stuff, isn't it? It's just an amazing state of being. Excited to see more lanterns. Excited to later this week record an episode about Spider-Man. You know, it's like, no, I was gonna say something really cringy, like it's always good to be a nerd. And now that I said it, it even sound worse than it was in my mind. But anyways, that's my time. That's my week talking about comic books. Hope you all find your book. I'm still workshopping the not the tagline, the catchphrase. So have some patience. Enjoy your comics. Read you all next week. Bye bye.